Start of a new week means start of fresh sowings, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to start off some early tomatoes, and it is a little bit early at the moment to be growing tomatoes, but if like me you can keep them indoors under lights or on a sunny windowsill, then there's no reason why you can't start some tomatoes off now. Of course, depending on when your last frost date is going to determine how long you're going to have to keep them in house. So think about that as well, because as they grow you're going to have to pot them on, because you don't want them growing in little pots and getting root bound before they've even got started. Or I can move them on into slightly larger pots as they grow, and it's not going to be too long, fall will be alright to put them outside. And I'm only growing a few of each to start with, and then we'll do some more a bit later on when we know it's safe to put them outside in a greenhouse. And we're doing two different types of tomatoes, as we always do every year. And the two different types we're doing are determinate and indeterminate. So one of the first ones I'll be doing are called cherry falls. And they're a determinate tomato plant, which means they're a bush tomato and they only grow to a set height. So these are perfect to put in containers. Depending on which variety you get, if it's a determinate tomato plant, they can grow anywhere between 12 inches tall and 3 feet. And obviously this one is going to have really nice red cherry tomatoes cascading all the way down the outside of the containers that you pop them in. So if you've got small space gardening, these are ideal. We've got some containers outside as well, long wooden ones. They're fixed to a wall. It's about 4 to 5 feet high. So we'll probably put a couple of these in that container garden this year and let them trail down outside. The thing to remember about determinate tomatoes is that they set their flowers and fruit all at the same time. Unlike your regular tomato plants that keep producing more and more flowers through season, which then becomes more and more tomatoes, determinate plants don't do that. They'll grow to a set size as a bush tomato, and then they'll flower. And then around about the same time they'll all start to ripen, and then that's that plant finished. You'll still get a lot of tomatoes from these type of plants, but also bear in mind that when you're growing them, you're keeping them in a nice little compact area. So once again, for the small space gardener, they're perfect. And also when it comes to maintenance of a determinate bush tomato plant, they're very low maintenance. When you grow regular tomatoes, from the very start at season, you have to keep removing all these suckers. Otherwise those plants get out of control really quick. But when you're growing any type of bush tomato, you leave those suckers on, because they're only growing to a set size. And the more suckers that grow, then the more flowers that that plant can produce, which in turn means you'll get more cherry tomatoes. So if it's your first time growing a bush tomato plant, make sure you leave all those suckers on. So they're cherry falls, a determinate tomato plant. And then I've got some San Lorenzo, and these are the ones that I'm looking forward to harvesting, because as I've mentioned before, we've got a cooking channel. There's nothing better than Italian plum tomatoes, and these are an indeterminate tomato plant, which means they'll grow all year long. So it's a vining variety. The more space they've got, the bigger they'll grow, and they set flowers and fruit at different times throughout the season, right up until your first frost arrives and kills these plants off. So these can get really tall. So these are basically your standard tomato plant that we're all used to. And then I've also got some sweet million, and once again this is an indeterminate tomato plant, so it will grow as big as you allow it to grow, and it will set its fruit all the way through here. But these ones are cherry tomatoes. So we've got a nice mixture to start off with. We've got as Italian plum tomatoes for us cooking, and then we've got the cherry tomatoes, which are great for a little snack or to pop on your salads. So now we know what type of tomatoes I'm going to be doing today. And that's just 3 varieties. I might do a couple of different ones further down the line, and I'll also be sowing a few extra ones of these at a later date. But for now, that's Monday morning's job. And because we're experimenting with some fresh compost this year, a couple of different types, this is what I've got left from the old mix. I'm just going to use that to fill the bottom of a container. for use a bit later on. We'll probably use that for growing some potatoes in. But I want to start off today using this fresh compost. We can get it out of the bag, give it a bit of a sieve and see what sort of quality it is. If you've got things growing outside, bear in mind that this weekend they have said that there could be a chance of some sleet. And I know we don't want to hear about it, but if you've got things in pots and containers in a greenhouse, they're perfectly fine. Because it's not going to drop down to minus temperatures. It's still going to be about 3 degrees at night. But we don't want sleet and snow falling onto us plants outside. So if you've got some fleece, get them covered up before this coming Saturday. That's a nice container full to use later on. I've also got a few of these troughs as well, so I might as well fill one of those up while I'm here. And that should be all that old compost rid of. So that's just about enough to fill that container as well. So we could pop a few salads in there if we wanted, but we'll get to that another day. Now we'll have a look at this grow shawl, see what sort of quality it is. Well, it's certainly not like the Vitex that I normally buy, but that don't mean it's not good quality stuff. And this contains about 4 months worth of feed as well. So we'll just see how it runs through this sieve. Because it's really fine, it might not even need it. So we've just sieved a bit of that through, and you can see there is some quite large pieces of stone in this, which is what we don't really want in as compost, especially when we're trying to sow seeds. So all this obviously needs to come out, and there's a few more stones in it than I found in that Vitex, but we'll reuse that anyway. That waste we'll just pop into these 10-litre pots, and we'll use it as a bottom filling, because you're only going to have your roots growing around the bottom area of these containers, so that won't cause any problems. And we can probably fill it up to about that depth, so then we're not wasting anything. And obviously if you've got pre-grown plants like these broccoli, then there's no need to sieve it. Just pop them straight in and they'll be perfectly fine. And we're going to have to move these on quite soon as well. Because that cold snap's coming, I'm not going to take risk of putting them outside just yet. So now we've sieved a bit, we've got a lot finer consistency, which will be perfectly alright for sowing as seeds to grow those little seedlings. And it does feel quite light and fine. And I think what we've just done will be enough for what we need today. I just had a little walk around garden because I'm trying to find some of these containers, what I need for these tomato plants today. While I was out there, I spotted this little salad planter that I did, and I did it in this greenhouse, and you can see that they're mixed salads, really nice. But we had really bad cold snap, as you might remember, and nothing happened, so I just assumed these seeds had rotted. And then I've just walked past the bench, and some of the seeds have now germinated and started growing, and those seeds were sown well over a month ago. So never one to turn down some free plants. So what I'll do is I'll just pop them into this spare container I've got, and that size would be a nice little planter to pop on your kitchen windowsill. Because these salads that I've just found growing outside, a salad leaf, so they're what you call a cut and come again. So we'll get those out. Make a bit of an hole, and then we'll get some planted in here. I'm just going to pop them in central and squash them together. So it's going to give us a nice little clump of salad leaves then. I'm even going to take this little one out as well. There's not much growing, but there's still a bit of something. So we'll get those all pressed together. So a nice little clump. And then I'll just top dress it with a bit of this new compost that we've got, because that's got feed in it as well. And it might not look much at the moment, but we've got start for a nice little salad planter. So I'm just going to get this watered in. So I'll pop that to one side, and that's as bonus for this week. We'll pop its label back in. Anyway, the reason I was looking for these is because we're going to sow 6 of each tomato plant, which is still quite a lot if they all work. But I'm going to do these, then I'm going to do more later, just in case anything does go wrong. At least I've got backups. But the reason I'm using these ones is because they're clear, but they're also quite deep as well. So you get quite a bit of compost in there, which means the plants can stay in there a bit longer. Normally we'd use those. They're 12 cells. But because I'm taking these indoors, and I'm going to have to keep them indoors for quite a while, I'm better off starting them off in something a bit bigger. So we'll get these filled with fresh compost, and then we can get some seeds sown. And I'm compacting this down because I want these tomato plants to have a nice stable bed to grow in. And of course they've got that added addition of once all those nutrients have diminished from that original seed we put in, this contains feed, which apparently can last up to 4 months. So we won't have to bother with these at all. And as it turned out, that bit of compost that we saved was exactly the amount we needed to fill these 3. So we've got all those containers set up, and you can see a little bit closer up the type of compost that it is. And obviously we're going to need labels for each one, with them being different types of tomato. But before we sow those seeds, I am going to pre-moisten this compost. Remember that when you're sowing any type, a cherry tomato seed especially, they're very tiny seeds. So just make sure that before you open it, you give that top a bit of a flick to make sure your seeds go to the bottom, or you might lose some of your seeds. When you grow any kind of trailing tomato or bush tomato, you only get a few seeds to start with, so you don't want to lose any. And you can see that they are very tiny seeds. And these are the sweet millions, so we'll start those off first, just by popping 1 seed per cell. We don't necessarily need 6 plants this early in season, so that's why I'm only putting 1 seed on each. And then I'm just going to poke them just below the surface of that compost with this pencil, making sure that the seed doesn't stick to it. You don't want to do them too deep. And then I'm just going to lightly cover them over like that. Because this compost is so fine, they shouldn't have any trouble breaking that surface once they've germinated. And then of course we'll label it. Then we can move on to the next one. And that's going to be San Maranzo. And again, quite small seeds. And exactly the same as I did before. I'm just going to do 1 per cell. And label. And then last, those cherry falls. And that's those all set up. I'll just give them another light watering. and they can go back inside until they've germinated. So that's all those tomato plants set up for now. All we need to do now is pop them back inside where it's a bit warmer so they can germinate, and we'll try and grow them on indoors to get some early tomato plants started. So a little bit more done for Monday morning, and a little bonus salad container as well. So virtually every day we're going to be looking to sow fresh seeds now, so that we can get as many things growing as we possibly can, ready for that spring weather coming. But as I said at the beginning, anything you've got outside at the moment, pop some fleece over it before the weekend, because we are possibly going to get a bit of sleet. And I'll be back again tomorrow, because I've still got a few more things that I want to get sown this week. And if you want to see what they are, then please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. I look forward to seeing you on next upload. Take care.